What is happening, guys and gals? Welcome back to Kamen Rider. And it's time for us to continue the story.
Yay.
And we've been looking over comments, and some people want us to take a look at two riders in particular. So we're going to bring in Kamen Rider Faiz, because apparently that's a very well requested rider. Yep, Faiz. Although, I don't know, the show just, I didn't like it.
Yeah, not as much as some other shows.
No, maybe I like some elements more than Ryuki.
I think I might have seen like a few seconds of it, but I didn't really see that much of the show, but you did.
It's more dramatic.
Yeah.
Like,
I like things that have like more humor and
yeah, so I mean, you like stuff like Double, Kabuto,
that is comic relief and stuff.
Yeah. And we'll bring in, of course, Orange Man for support. Gaiam.
Yay.
I don't know the appeal. So we're going to Kabuto's level right now. And, yeah. He has no dreams of his own, but he's still gonna dream. That's the plan. So Faiz, how do I explain this? Show is dark. The show is really, really dark. It's basically the premise of mutants that can turn into riders.
Yeah, there are a lot of mutated people in it.
And he looks like kind of like a robot, but in order to use his morpher or whatever it's called, you have to be of mutant blood. Like, it can't just be like a normal person picking up a rider belt and going HENSIN. You have to have the blood.
You have to be a mutant to use it.
And how I remember the show opening up, they're experimenting on like something, which is very reminiscent to the, Showa era riders. And you see this mutant bug thing like infiltrate this lab.
Yeah.
And he attacks a bunch of scientists and steals a rider belt. And then it fast forwards a couple years, and you see this character named Yuji. He's hanging out with his fiance, looking at pictures of what he was like as a kid. Very homebody, like nice, kind of opening up your heart to, oh, who is this guy? Is this the Kamen Rider Faiz?
Yeah.
And then, he has this great life. He's really great with his family. And then they show them in a car.
I remember, you telling me this.
And
oh my gosh.
It's like, oh.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
Man, life sucks like that sometimes.
That's my axle form, by the way. So I get like a sword and a gun, and I also have one of the most powerful rider kicks in the world. It like uses all this power and stuff like that. That creates kind of like this psychic drill. But, but anyway, back to the character Yuji. He's this really nice guy, and you want to feel for him. Kabuto. Masked form Kabuto. So he's gonna try to defeat us in that form. But Yuji is this guy that's just like normal,
Yeah.
He's got his life together, he's gonna get married, all this fun stuff. For whatever reason, he's driving with his parents. I don't know, maybe taking them out to dinner or something. Maybe showing off his new apartment. I don't know. But they get in a car accident by a semi, and his parents are killed on impact, and then Yuji's put in a coma for several years, and life just kind of like stops for Yuji, but life moves for everybody else in his world. While he's in a coma, you learn that his uncle planned the downfall of his family, sold off their family home to pay their debts.
Yeah, I was confused because I was thinking, I thought his uncle killed his parents, but I guess that was the way he killed his parents.
Yeah, I mean, he hired some driver or cut the guy's brakes or whatever. I don't really remember. Faiz is a dark show. Somehow the fiance is involved with it, and it's just all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, then his fiance ends up marrying somebody else. And then when he comes out of the coma, it's like, oh, you weren't supposed to wake up. It's like...
Yeah, you weren't supposed to wake up. You were supposed to be dead.
Why didn't she wait for him?
Because it was 3 years.
But that's not enough time. I would have waited.
Thank you.
3 years.
I appreciate that.
I would have.
But one thing that I find, because this is kind of... I would have
come over and combed your hair and brought you flowers.
This is kind of a theme in some rider shows. Sometimes the rider gets killed, and then they come back to life like through some type of thing. So Yuji's in the hospital, he's been in a coma. They're like, oh, this is our coma patient, nothing ever happens to him, just move along. And a nurse notices that he's going in a cardiac arrest, and then he dies. And then when they're calling the time of death or whatever, they walk over to the writer, or the character.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, he transforms into a monster, kind of.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of monsters in Faiz.
But what's crazy about that is that character, when he turns into the monster, you're like, hold on a second, this isn't the rider, what's going on? And it's like, for the first time, they're really showing the point of view from the bad guys. Like, right away, you're like, I thought this Yuji guy was gonna be Kamen Rider Faiz, and it's like, nope. Enter this guy named Takumi, who's just this kind of dude stalking this girl to get a rider belt. You know?
Oh, right. This show, you actually get to see what happens to the bad guy that makes him that way.
Yeah.
Like one bad day.
Yeah, basically. And he turns into kind of like a centaur type creature.
Yeah, you feel more for the bad guy than the good guy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I did in that show. I really did. But anyway, the rider belt, the Faiz belt or whatever, is being carried by this girl for whatever reason. And she's a motorcycle person. I love how Kabuto just walks towards you like all like, you know.
and he's just, yeah.
Let's see how you do with a double rider kick. There we go. How do you like that, Kabuto?
Pretty cool.
That had to hurt him. Yeah, I think, nope. That didn't even phase him. Wow, Kabuto's strong. And he's only in his masked form. But yeah, see the drill?
Yeah, I thought he looked different. I was like, what? I thought Kabuto had a red outfit.
Yeah, I believe that was my Delta form. I don't really remember all of Faiz's forms, but he has like 2 or 3. But, yeah, so they show, like, Yuji wiping out all these people or whatever, but then he feels remorse after it. And then Takumi is just this kind of, like, stalker guy who's following this girl. She tries to use the transformation ability, and she can't transform because she doesn't have the blood of the mutant, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, Takumi basically steals the morpher and turns into Faiz and takes care of the monster pretty easily. But what's interesting about the Faiz show is it's not just Takumi that can be Faiz.
Then he tells her, go make me sandwich.
Yeah, pretty much. Any rider or any monster who gets a hold of his belt and his morpher can transform into that character.
That's kind of weird.
So there's been like 9 other people that have been that character, if memory like
so they're
serves
all
me right.
mutants, but they're good, or there's some good mutants, some bad.
Well, over the course of the show, Yuji, you know, he feels really bad for what happened. He got revenge, took care of the people that, you know, destroyed his life. And he comes into, like, this organization. I think it's, like, called Brainchild or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But they basically tell him, you know, you're the hope for humanity, and humanity is now mutated. So half the population has this, you know, mutant blood in them, and you're going to be our champion and take down Faiz, who's trying to destroy us from being the next step in human evolution.
Oh, okay.
You know, because Faiz is protecting people from these mutant creatures.
I don't know why, but I get like an X-Men feel from it.
It kind of is, because Yuji then
scared of the mutated people that could be, you know, more
Yuji
stronger than them.
Basically says, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to protect humans. So he gets his band of followers, and as these, I can't say the name of their creatures because it's way too hard to pronounce. It starts with an O. You guys in the comments probably know what it is, but Japanese names and just pronouncing them, no. But they're basically monsters. That's all you need to know.
Come on, K-Wing, butcher the name in front of everyone.
It's Epoch? Openok?
For the comments.
Openok? I don't know. I don't know what the heck it's called. It's weird. But Yuji creates his own like little X-Men group, and they work with Faiz and some other people. But there's also this really annoying rider. Uh-oh. Kabuto. Grandmother says that I am the sun.
Grandmother says.
And I'm gonna spank you. That's pretty much what it could be. So he's in his cast-off mode, and we're fighting him in our regular mode, so we're gonna have to go...
I made you butcher that name, I feel bad.
Yes. But no.
I taunted you.
So Yuji tries to work with Faiz, then we have this other guy, I believe his name is Masato or whatever. He is one of the most hated secondary riders in all existence. In fact, he gets
see.
killed 3 times in 3 different ways in 3 different continuities because he's just a total tool.
Wow.
I don't like him. Nobody likes him. Even his actor is kind of like, yeah, the way that they had me portray the Rider, and he's the actor's a nice guy in real life. He's a really good sport. But Masato gets killed like so many different ways. He is not a friend of the Rider. In fact, he's kind of like a anti-villain hero type guy.
Okay.
And he fights Takumi like all the time. And Takumi feels like this kindred spirit because they both don't like the mutants, but at the same time, they're not really gonna, you know, whatever. This other guy is gonna go and wipe out as much people as possible. So when he finally gets killed off by Yuji, which everybody is so happy about, Yuji becomes that Rider, the secondary Rider.
Oh, okay.
Until, of course, his death.
So people just do not like Masato.
No. Oh, great glitch. I can't even see my Excel form.
Great.
Accelerate!
So,
This is my monster form.
do
My
we want to
amazing
talk
form.
about Kabuto now, or?
Kabuto, I have a lot to talk about Kabuto, so I'll save it for, because I'm gonna play as Kabuto
We're gonna
next.
save it for later.
Because I really, Faiz is cool and everything. I love his rider. I love the way he looks. The show, to me, it's just boring and depressing.
Yeah, those are a combination.
That's my mark. That's my finishing mark.
Oh, cool.
Except people, I believe they disintegrate. They don't explode. Like,
Oh.
there's like this weird kind of like disintegration thing.
Maybe
Something
it's
like
because
that.
of your mutant powers.
Yeah, actually, I think it has to do with that. But that's the ending screen for Faiz right there. Very robotic in nature, very robotic feel.
Alright, so I have a question about Faiz. The guy that you see at the beginning, that his fiance marries his cousin, and his parents are gone, and they didn't want him to wake up. He becomes a rider later on in it?
After he kills Masato, yeah. He takes his powers. Because remember, any monster can use the rider belt thing to become like human. So he steals it, and then he works with Faiz for a while. You know, kind of like, think like Kamen Rider Ryuki, like Knight and Dragon working together a little bit. That type of thing.
Ah, okay, alright, yeah, Yuji. Okay.
But I know I'm biased here, but Kabuto is just a better show. It has like more of an action feel to it. There's a little bit, there's definitely more comedy in it. And the riders are just so likable. I really tried. I rewatched 10 episodes of Faiz, and I was just super depressed that I had to watch like 6 episodes of Double and a couple episodes of Den-O to just kind of like even out the depression, because it was too much. I had to throw in a couple episodes of Forza too.
Had to pet your kitty.
Yeah, actually Tink slept on me like while I was watching most of those. But Kabuto, I mean, for a show that came out when we got married 10 years ago, it's actually pretty good. I mean, some of the graphics don't really look as good, but its vibe to me is kind of like
from what
samurais.
From what I saw of Kabuto, I really liked it a lot. Just the way his attitude, where he was just so sure of himself, like I don't know, I don't want to say it, but
he is the son. You know, he even when he meets like the secondary rider, and he says, "Well, you can't defeat me because I am the son. I am the way to heaven, so you can't, defeat me."
Oh, wow.
You know, I walk the path of heaven, you just walk the path of man. You know.
Oh, interesting.
But then later on in the show, you find out that Kabuto is a lot more. Grandmother says that my armor looks amazing because I polish it.
Yeah,
with turtle wax.
I don't know why, but Kabuto reminds me of Batman.
Oh, definitely.
A lot.
Like, just the air about him.
This. He's so arrogant.
Look how he just approaches everything.
Not in a bad way, but in a good way. He's arrogant. Like, I got
Cast
this.
off.
Like,
all right.
You're not even a threat to me.
This is our rider form, and basically we're like a ninja, especially when we use like the clock up ability.
They are kind of like samurai because they're so like poised, like the way Kabuto is. He's like not. He's just so in control of himself that it's like intimidating.
Now, the reason why they pair up like Kabuto and Faiz a lot and a lot of crossovers and stuff like that is their shows have very similar feels to them. They're both kind of like insects and animal type things, like Kabuto, just like the Faiz show, the very first character that we're introduced to is a secondary, or in this case, like third or fourth rider.
Oh yeah, your favorite.
Kagami. I love Kagami.
Yeah.
Oh, here's Deno. All right, Deno, let's do this. Yeah, well, you're going
they kind
down.
of all start to look the same when I'm like, when I'm.
That's racist to the riders.
I know.
They all look totally different.
It's bug racist.
I can actually name every single rider now.
Oh my gosh.
Like based on Kamen Rider Summon Ride and playing this game. I
They're all
know.
bugs though. It's hard.
I think I know like all the main riders. Now doing the secondary ones is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I like about Kabuto, probably why I was able to get into it so much, is it's very similar to Drive. Like, the clock up ability is just like Drive's, like, slowdown. Like, where they do the speed up ability. Although Kabuto is much, much faster. He has, like, his clock up thing is like the speed of light. And then later when he's in hyper clock up or whatever, hyper mode, he can time travel like the Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. But anyway,
Wow,
getting
that's
back
pretty,
to
that is pretty crazy.
to Kagami. Kagami is just your average, Joe, and he's really fun because, he's just like this really down-to-earth, funny guy that's working for this secret military organization known as Zect, who are trying to wipe out these bugs.
Yeah. I didn't see too much of the beginning of it. I saw some of it. But
Well,
yeah.
this game has like you reliving the first episode of all the characters, pretty much. So he's trying to stop the bugs or whatever, and he's not really good at his job. In fact, nobody at Zect really trusts him with anything.
Yeah.
When he meets Tendo for the first time, Tendo is like your typical samurai like imagery. Here you have this guy in traditional Japanese attire, like not a kimono, but I forget what they call the Japanese guy like clothing. He's wearing a robe, he's carrying tofu, like the Japanese style where it's in the bowl in the water. And Kagami is like trying to be like a police officer stopping this guy who stole his wallet. And Tendo is just walking there with his tofu. He doesn't even move when the robber almost slits his throat with a knife. And then later, Kagami is like, scolding the guy, like, why didn't you dodge? And Tendo's like, grandmother says that if you spoil the tofu, then you are a fool. And the guy's just looking at him like, what the heck is your problem? Who is this weakling?
He's more considered about the he's sort of worried about the tofu.
So anyway, the burglar gets away. The burglar gets away. And he's running, past Tendo, and he's like, oh, you dropped your wallet. As he's walking, he picks up the first part of his foot, and he kicks up the wallet, and then before the wallet can drop, he uses that same foot to kick the wallet in the back of the robber's head. And Kagami is just like, holy crap, what just happened here?
Yeah, he does it effortlessly.
And then he's just like, you really need to do your job better there, sir. And Kagami's like, wait a second, you just insulted me.
Oh, okay.
And there's like a running gag between those two because he just calls Kagami kind of like this nobody, or this guy that's just like totally irresponsible.
So basically, it feels like Kagami is like
he's your everyman.
He's a average guy, and he struggles with life and his job and everything. Yeah. So it's like he's a really nice guy, but no one really thinks he can really be really awesome or do anything. So he's basically underestimated.
Yeah, and even though he's considered the main character, like it takes place from his point of view, the show is really about Tendo. This is another one of Deno's forms that we're fighting.
Oh yeah, and Tendo is Kabuto, isn't he? Yeah, Tendo is Kabuto.
Here we go! Hyper mode! I forget the name of the gun that I'm using, but my weapon basically goes from a kunai to a sword.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's pretty awesome.
That sword is like amazing. I want one of those flaming swords.
Yeah, but okay, so anyway, in the first episode...
I want a sword!
No. It's like a flaming laser sword. In the first episode, Kagami and Zect again, they're like an army that's trying to stop these bugs. And they actually look like Kamen Riders, because they're dressed in uniforms similar to a Kamen Rider. They kind of look like Kamen Rider Black, except without, the biker shorts and pixie boots. But they're like this serious organization, so they're taking on a bug. And this whole time, Kagami has been like asking for permission to have the use of the rider belt because only the Zect organization has riders. They've developed a technology based after the bugs.
They're kind of like the Marvel Shield people.
Right. Yeah, basically.
And then
and Kagami is like so happy that he finally gets to transform. The difference between these riders and the other ones, when you call Henshin, you turn into your thing. These insects fly out of like a dimension, and they like become part of your morphing sequence. So as Kagami is calling the beetle, he says, Henshin, I summon you, Kabuto. The beetle comes up, and then it's flying toward Kagami, and at the last second, it goes towards this person that's standing with the sun behind him, so you can't see his face, and he grabs it, and he says, Henshin. And Kagami is just standing there like, what the heck? This was my time! This was all Kagami time! I was gonna be the hero!
Poor Kagami.
And this guy is able to use, like, all of the things that Kagami has been training for his entire life, to be, or, at least 2 years in this organization. And this Kabuto, who nobody knows who he is until the end of the episode, like, he's doing it so effortlessly, and he's staying in the masked form.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going into the cast-off mode at all. And Kagami is screaming at the guy, like, you have to go cast-off or you won't be able to defeat the bug. And Kabuto just says all, like, coolly, I'm seeing how far I can go in this mode. And the guy's like, what? That's the weak mode.
Yeah.
And Kabuto's actually kicking a lot of butt. He does finally transform to show off the rider form and does a rider kick with his back turned to the bug, Yeah. And just like within milliseconds before the bug comes up to him, he turns around and kicks him in the face. And, the force of the explosion knocks out Kagami. But for the longest time, until the smoke clears, basically the Zect organization comes in and they're like, great work, Kagami, like you finally pulled your weight around here. And they see somebody else standing there, and they're like, what?
He's a Kabuto is a vigilante.
Yeah, basically.
Not with the government organization at all.
Nope.
He's all on his own.
All on his own.
And they kind of don't like that. They're very annoyed with him, but nobody can really take him down because he's so awesome.
No, they have to bring in a secondary rider called TheBee or the Wasp, depending on your translation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to describe how awesome Kabuto is, but you'll have to see it to know.
I really recommend you guys watch Kabuto.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's like Batman or Yoda or Neo.
He's like Batman, Neo, and the Flash all in one.
Yeah. It is really awesome.
And the show has a lot of heart, too. I mean, there's some characters that feel like not as cool as some others, but everything has like a great like motion to it.
You forgot another aspect of Kabuto that's cool about him. Is that he's a cook, right?
Yes.
He's
like a renowned expert chef. Yep. Rider kick with Faiz. Here we go.
He's like a larger than life character.
Booyah!
He's just so cool.
Do we get him? Slow motion.
Yeah, and then when Kagami has to fight Kabuto, he's like almost crying because he doesn't want to fight him because he wants to be his friend.
Oh yeah, that's much later in the series though.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because he actually chooses to friendship over being a rider, and then because of that, the organization creates, or rather his dad or somebody, I forget, they make him a new Zector belt that turns him into Gat-Tak, I believe is his name, which he looks exactly like Kabuto, except he's all blue. And he kind of looks like a Beetleborg, the way his mandibles are on the top of his head.
I haven't seen that yet, so I'll have to check that out.
No, you haven't seen that yet, but that's much later in the series.
I actually did like watching what I saw of it. It's pretty cool.
But I'll talk about TheBee, like, real quick. Bee is the secondary rider, and he has a different philosophy than Kabuto. It's like two wandering samurais, like, meeting together, although...
Yeah, they are like wandering samurais, actually.
I would say TheBee actually follows the shogunate, so Zect. They kind of work hand in hand. He also believes in something called perfect harmony, and he watches out for his subordinates. Like, he puts the safety of his men above anything else. So he has like his own elite army, which is pretty cool. But when he first meets Kabuto, they meet in their human forms, and they're going to buy tofu because they're both really great chefs. The one guy, the bee user, wants to buy the tofu so that he can feed his men a treat because they've been doing such a great job killing the bugs. And Kabuto wants to make tofu for his sister because he feeds his sister like every single day. Like he always cooks for her something really good. You know?
It's nice. Yeah, I remember seeing them cook, but I didn't realize they were both really good chefs. So
Yes.
that's cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. So they already have
Kamen
kind of
Rider.
like this thing that they don't like about each other. They're kind of rivals in the kitchen.
So they're rivals on the battlefield and the kitchen.
But not in the beginning. They're not really enemies. Like, the only reason they're really enemies is the fact that B has to defeat Kabuto as part of his job. Like, he can't use the powers unless he becomes Kabuto's enemy. Because
Yeah,
the B
weird.
is the rival to the beetle.
That's very strange.
So yeah. Anyway, they end up fighting monsters and they work together for, I don't know, a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And Kabuto, being the solo player he is, doesn't want to work with Zect. And he's just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to fight monsters by myself. By the way, B, you let them get away. And B's like, well, I would really like to work with you. You know, if we both work together and you become my subordinate, we can take these people down without any problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's trying to extend that hand of friendship or whatever. And Kabuto's just kind of being a jerk, like, no, I'm good. And
I work alone.
yeah, pretty much. So
I work alone, Robin.
then for 3 episodes, Batman and Robin fight.
Yeah.
And then
They're Batman and Robin, except for it's Nightwing and Batman.
the only reason that Kabuto loses the duel is because he's trying to protect Kagami, because B goes crazy and he's only focusing on fighting Kabuto. So Kabuto has to go in clock-up mode. He throws his kunai to stop building debris from killing his friend.
Yeah.
And that's why he loses the duel and his belt gets like destroyed, but then it gets fixed anyway, which they don't really
okay.
explain how it happens. I was just kind of like, maybe you guys in the comments know how it happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. But I forget what happens, but B, his men are being destroyed by like a whole group of bugs and mutated bugs. So then he loses the B power while he's fighting Kabuto. In fact, he's not doing the perfect harmony thing, so his men are being wiped out. And even Kabuto's
yeah.
like, dude, your men, you know, I came to help you. And stuff like that, and he's just like, I'm gonna defeat you, Kabuto, and then before he can use his stinger ability, like, his suit falls apart, and he's human again, and he almost gets killed by the bugs.
He's not worthy, like, anymore, because he's not taking care of his people.
So then Kagami, who's been, like, the subordinate for this other guy, he finds the Morpher, turns into the Bee, so excited, and then he finds out after he saved everybody that he has to fight Kabuto, and as Amber said, he can't do it, and he gives up his powers, and then that guy from the hospital, that wounded soldier, ends up becoming the next Bee and fights the both of them or something. But I mean, it's
Pretty
a
cool.
really, really great show. I'm not getting into the later episodes because there's a lot of spoilers.
I think I already did something.
If you love time travel, if you love different riders and just like kind of a mix of action and humor, then Kabuto is the show for you guys. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys had fun. And we'll be back with another Kamen Rider very soon. Probably Kiva or somebody else.
God bless and happy gaming.
Feel free to suggest somebody in the comments below. Bye-bye.
See ya.